Want to bring in eNCA senior reporter now, Siphamandla Goge, who's also been on the ground. And this is quite an interesting component that you've been following, Siphamandla. The renewed 2022 slate, which is set to be President Cyril Ramaphosa's slate, opting to get him as president for a second term, but opting to go for Oscar Mabuyane as his deputy, and in a sense dropping Ronald Lamola. And I thought this quite interesting because his track record, Oscar Mabuyane, in the Eastern Cape as Premier has not been a flowery one, in that there have been a lot of mishits in that province in terms of the provision of basic service delivery. So one would say that these decisions weren't necessarily based on the broader South Africa in mind, but rather on the interests of individuals and groupings within the organization. What say you?
Indeed, look at it this way. ANC leaders, when they contest for positions, it's all about themselves and their slates. It's got nothing to do with the people of South Africa and addressing socio-economic challenges that the country is facing. Yes, the ANC is the governing party, but if you look at the way they negotiate when they come to conferences, it's really about narrow political interests, which will enable them to get political power. Once they assume political power, then they can contest for that political power using the state resources, and when they are able to join the state, then therefore they will be able to be in government and influence certain things. But this conference of the ANC has been very interesting and dynamic, in a sense that if you try to check what has been the focus so far, it has been about this leadership perspective that many people are preferring. You've got two main slates here, one led by current president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, that features Oscar Mabuyane as their preferred deputy president. If you check his track record and his collective leadership in the Eastern Cape, that province is one of the poorest provinces in the country. There have been complaints about lack of basic services. Some of the worst performing municipalities in the country are found in the Eastern Cape. Issues of, basic services remain a major challenge in that province. Earlier on, I interviewed Oscar Mabuyane, whom, by the way, told me that he's been negotiating with Mpumalanga. The Eastern Cape has been negotiating with Mpumalanga. Remember, Ronald Lamola was also nominated for the position of the deputy president, but we have been told that those who are lobbying for Oscar Mabuyane have persuaded Mpumalanga to say, on this one, please let it go, give it to Oscar Mabuyane. I asked him whether that deal has been reached, because remember, there are always conflicting views here and confusing messages that a deal has been reached. Others will come out and say, no, that's not the case, we are still contesting. A deal that we know has been reached is between Pule Mabe as well as Mzwandile Masina, who has agreed to let Pule Mabe contest for the position of the Treasurer General, or rather Treasurer General, on the slate of Dr. Zweli Mkhize. But Oscar Mabuyane said to me he has been negotiating with Mpumalanga, and this is how he responded to my question when I asked him about those negotiations. Let's take a listen.
What I know is that we are working well with Mpumalanga, all comrades are together, we're moving forward, rebuilding the ANC.
Has he decided to let you continue on this one?
That's what I heard from the comrades. We're handling the situation, but we're working well. We are one, we are aligned with Comrade Lamula. We've been working together and we continue working.
Very interesting insights there coming from Oscar Mabuyane, Sipa. Also, another big talking point that has been thrashed out over the last 2 days is policies within the ANC. Great at developing them, but what we've seen over the last 5 years, as an example, is that the implementation of resolutions of the policies that are developed within the ruling party is something that they are unable to do. What was your conversation with Oscar Mabuyane around policies of the ANC?
Well, he's of the view that a lot needs to happen to change the policy direction that the ANC and the country is taking. Rather, remember that the ANC is the governing party. But, you know, you get a sense that ANC leaders and delegates who are here, they appear to be preoccupied with the issue of electing leaders. That has been one of the most disturbing things over a number of years when it comes to ANC conferences. Even though currently, as we speak, they are busy with commissions, they are discussing a number of policy proposals and issues ranging from the economy, as we see these delegates here emerging and singing, you know, but commissions continue and voting is still underway. It's going to be a very long night. When I spoke to Oscar Mabuya, and I did put it to him that the issue of service delivery in the Eastern Cape is one of the major challenges. If he wants to be promoted to become the deputy president of the ANC and, you know, eyeing to become the deputy president of the country, what key policy priorities that he would want to see this conference focusing on? This is how he responded.
We've actually put some concrete proposals, as you would recall from the policy conference, looking at more on the issues of socio-economic development. We are one of those provinces that are really still need much more attention, and that attention cannot only be done by provinces and municipalities. We need a national focused program, a national intervention to actually elevate the province to a level where other provinces actually are, like your Gauteng and others. Yes, of course, couple of key programs are investor-driven programs. You needed to create a conducive environment. That's why you need to deal with issues of infrastructure in the province. So we've been working on that.
And Siphamandla, obviously it is not just South Africans who are watching on this particular conference and the outcomes thereof, but the world at large. Siphamandla Goge, I mentioned earlier with an analyst I was speaking to that the rand has weakened quite significantly over today's developments and the chopping and changing of Gauteng and Limpopo. So investors looking on and wondering about policy stability and whether the murmurs of a new president in the form of a Zweli Mkhize will be able to create that policy stability are rearing their heads. Those questions are mounting and those concerns are increasing. Based on your engagements around the broader economic base of South Africa and new leadership, should it emerge that way, are there any concerns that are being raised in this regard?
I would say I doubt, really. Perhaps there may be concerns about the change of leadership style, but nothing changes if the new president of the ANC comes in. It doesn't matter who leads the ANC. I'm keeping my eyes focused that side because I see some movement. We expect former President Thabo Mbeki to make his way to join one of the commissions this side where I am. I see a presidential motorcade has just pulled up. I'm going to ask my colleague Joe Komane to remove this camera from the tripod and we try to be handheld so that we'll be able, please pardon our shaky visuals here, we will try and get to the other side of this so that we'll be able to try and get former President Thabo Mbeki, one of the people who are arriving that side. Let me see which one is that particular leader that is coming that way. Please bear with us as we are trying to move around here. I've spotted some movement there and I think it looks like let me see who is that person. We'll try and walk this direction and try and get a glimpse of that high profile leader of the ANC who is making his way down this route. Let me just see which one is that. But we were told that former President Thabo Mbeki was going to take over. I think it's former President Jacob Zuma who is making his way this side. Let's just try and get a glimpse of think it's former President Jacob Zuma who was making his way this side. This is his motorcade this side. So former President Jacob Zuma going to the other side. He's one of those delegates who are still participating here at this 55th National Conference of the ANC. I'm sure he's attending one of the commissions this side. Former President Jacob Zuma entering one of the commissions hall this side. So a number of ANC former leaders and current leaders are still attending this conference, which is far from over in terms of those commissions that are still underway, still discussing a number of things. So to answer your question about stability, in my view, it doesn't matter who leads the ANC, nothing changes at the end of the day. They've got their policy conference where they resolve and adopt policies. No individual leader will wake up one day and say, I'm implementing this economic policy. It does not work like that within the ANC. Yes, perhaps if there is a change of guard, you could get a sense whereby there will be a change of leadership style. But nothing will change after this conference in terms of the ANC and the challenges that the country is facing. For more than 2 decades now, the ANC has been grappling, its successive economic policies have failed dismally to deal with the issue of sluggish economic growth, the issue of unemployment, inequality and poverty. They are leading a society that is plagued by violent crime. South Africa is one of the unsafest countries in the world. So Cyril Ramaphosa or Zweli Mkhize, it makes no difference. At the end of the day, it's the ANC that is in charge. It's the ANC that is struggling with socio-economic challenges that face the people of South Africa. How the markets will react should there be a new leader, that would be expected. But remember, even Finance Minister Enoch Godongwane told us a couple of days ago that really they should be no concern in terms of the markets, because South Africa in the ANC has been through a lot. In the past, the ANC has recalled, by the way, its two sitting presidents. I'm talking about former President Thabo Mbeki at the time, who was the president of the Republic, having finished his 2 terms as the president of the ANC. Former President Jacob Zuma of the ANC, when his term lapsed and then he was still the president of the Republic, he had to be recalled. There were some movements within the market, but at the end of the day, it's the same governing party that is still in charge. It's the same governing party that is coming to this conference with 2 compromised main contenders. President Cyril Ramaphosa is plagued by the Phala scandal. Dr. Zweli Mkhize is plagued by the digital vibe scandal. It doesn't matter who you elect, both of them, they are plagued by scandals. One of them will be elected president of the ANC. Will that move the markets? Perhaps slightly, but I doubt that there will be a huge shift.
Absolutely, Siphamandla. We have run out of time, but very briefly, do you know how far we've come with the voting, and when that's expected to be concluded?
Well, the likelihood is that it will go all the way till midnight. We understand that voting is still underway. Counting has not even begun. They are voting according to provinces, while others are voting. Others are busy attending and discussing during or in those commissions. So we do not have the latest update as to how many provinces are still yet to go and vote. But we are told voting is still underway, and probably by, just after 12 midnight, we could see some movement in terms of wrapping up that voting and starting with counting. It's safe to say that the likelihood is that if and when those results are announced, that could possibly happen in the wee hours of the morning.
Sounds like a very long night ahead for all of us.